I remember being in the county jail and I remember hearing that door click at like 3 in the morning. He made me the first person in American history to have the lived experience of going to prison as a convicted felon, getting out and becoming a prosecutor.
What's up, y'all? It's your favorite host, AybrielBTV, and welcome to another episode of Down and Dirty. Today is really special. We have a special guest with us, James White III. How are you feeling today?
I'm well. How about yourself?
I am doing good. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for being here.
No problem. He was previously incarcerated, got his law degree, and now he's making change with his foundation, James for Change, as well as he is also a prosecutor. Let's get into your story. I'm excited. All right. Reflecting on your past incarceration journey, what are some of your biggest challenges that you faced?
Man, incarceration?
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the first things I seen, I remember being in the county jail and I remember hearing that door click at like 3 in the morning. And you know what that means when the door clicks at 3 in the morning when you're in the county jail and you know you have to go to prison. That means it's your turn.
Wow.
So when I heard my door click, everybody, oh, what's up, boy? You know, they sending me off. And they shackle us down, you get on the van, and you have to go down to a diagnostic center.
Okay.
I went to Jackson State Prison where they house the death row inmates.
Wow.
That's the place that I went for the beginning of my sentence. And you go there to get checked out, diseases, you know, all
Things like that, yeah.
So that was my first experience. And when I got there, as I'm getting off the bus, it was about 15, 20 buses where people was just getting off. I get off the bus, I see all my homeboys. What's up, boy? You know, like,
what?
It was almost like we was coming there to meet.
Yeah, like a reunion, yeah.
Yeah, so that was one of the strangest things ever for me because I was like, it's us that's coming to this system, you know, and I seen people who I knew, you know, personally getting off these buses. So it was just, that was a weird experience for me. That was the first. When I got inside the building, everybody stripped naked and shaved and, you know, mustache, hair, just everything. And you go into your cells. And in Jackson State Prison, they had figured out how to jam these doors where you think they're locked.
Oh, wow.
They're not really locked.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man, you take almost like the toilet tissue, the roll piece that's in the middle, you fold it, you can stick it up on top of the door, jam your door, and when the police go by, you know, they shake it and it feels locked, but it's not really locked. So people getting stabbed, killed, I mean, just all kind of crazy stuff that goes on in a prison. So when you asked about that experience, it was rough. It was tough. It was, you know, I was scared for my life at times, but, you know, I was ready to do what I needed to do to protect myself. So when you asked about that experience, it's a very, very broad experience. That was the beginning. The second piece is just doing my time. Doing my push-ups, reading my Bible, staying out of the way. I was one of those kind of people where I stayed out of the way.
And so let's fast forward a little bit. Like, how did you even end up there?
So when I was 21 years old, I was homeless at the time.
Okay.
And I was involved with a young woman who told me that she was pregnant with my child.
Okay.
I didn't want to be my father. I didn't want to be anything like him. I decided to do something stupid, to go rob somebody. In my neighborhood where I grew up, that was a normal thing to do. No, very normal thing to do.
Oh, wow.
You know, like it wasn't outside of the box. It wasn't a crime.
That's just kind of what you did, yeah.
It's what we knew. So I did that. And this was after a few nights sleeping in cars or going into the projects over some of the drug users' houses that I used to sell to. I go sleep on their couch or sleep in their beds. And after doing that for a while and dealing with her, she's telling me that she's pregnant. I go make the dumbest decision of my life to go and rob somebody. I got caught.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to prison, and, you know, that's kind of where things started to change for me. But I'll say this about prison. Most people go to prison with the doctorates of criminology. and they get out, or let me say, they go in with a bachelor's of criminology,
Right.
and they get out with a doctorate. So you typically become a better criminal when you go to jail. Typically, not everybody, but typically you become a better criminal. Why? Because everybody who's in there has done something 9 times out of 10, and you learn how to do it better.
Wow.
You learn how to do it better, and that happened for me too.
Right. Right.
I went in with a bachelor's and I got out with a doctorate of criminology.
Right.
Now, when I got out, I didn't get back into the motions of everything that I did.
Was it tempting though?
Of course.
Right.
Of course, because you go back to the same people, same community,
right.
Same thing. So you just get back into the role of things, and when you get out, you have some drug dealers who's ready to bless you. Hey, here you go.
Right. Let's back out. Yeah,
you're back at it. So.
And so what do you think your younger self needed to hear that maybe would have stopped you at that moment? Of course, I know that you made this decision to rob someone because you were, you had a child in the way, but what do you think your younger self needed to hear at that moment? And do you think it would have been different?
First, let me address what you just said about the child on the way thing. I want to make it clear.
Okay.
The girl that I was dealing with then, she didn't make me do anything. She didn't, she has nothing to do with it. And even the child had nothing to do with it, because one thing I had to do was take accountability for the choice I made.
That's good.
Life is about choices, man. I don't care what's going on in your life. What choice you make is solely on you.
That's good.
So that's the big piece of that.
Right.
Now, what was the question that you asked? Because I want to make sure I had answered.
No, you're fine. What did your younger self need to hear?
I've heard this question thousands of times, and here's the thing. And it kind of goes back to what I just said about making that choice. You're either going to do something or you're not going to do something.
Right.
No matter what anybody tells you, you're going to have to make a choice. I don't think there's nothing that could have been said to me back then that would have changed the trajectory of where I was headed, because it was already up here about who I thought I was. See, when you grow up in the community that I grew up in, I grew up around a lot of gangsters, street cats, and to be around that, you got to kind of assimilate to it or get eaten up.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. How do you?
You got to assimilate or get eaten up for the most part. So, which is why education was not a priority in my household or my community, because what was the priority was selling drugs and making it out. So don't get it twisted. These young guys or women, whoever, that are in these communities that are committing these crimes, trust me, they don't want to be committing these crimes.
Right.
They're doing this to escape poverty.
That is true.
And they're just misguided. They're just misguided on how to escape poverty.
And so how do we change that though?
Yeah,
I mean, of course it's going to take time, but
I was asking a friend of mine, like, how do we make education cool? You know how when you see somebody with the new shoes and the new, fashion, the hair, the car, you know what I mean? They're popular, they play sports. That's a cool thing in our culture.
Oh, wow.
How do we make education cool? That's what I asked my friend.
Yeah.
Because I'm puzzled. Even though I don't think I have the answer to it.
I think we talked about this on the phone, like even, maybe highlighting trade school or different things that people don't really know about. Because I think when I think of education, I think people only think about college. They like, oh, I have to go get my degree. Oh, college isn't for me. So what other, I guess maybe honing on people's talents, like what their talents are and what's out there that we can offer them. I don't know.
To me, that sounds good.
Yeah.
But when I think about it, I'm asking myself, is this going to entice them, right? Like,
money is the only thing really to entice people. Yeah.
But that's what I think. That's what it's going to hinge on. Some level of enticement, some way that they're going to say,
incentives.
I have to get this. I have to do this, and that'll make them kind of get on the right path. And we have to figure out the best ways of doing that. I was talking to a good friend of mine who's an alpha man. Okay. And they're doing a lot of great things with the youth.
We love alphas,
And I was, they're ice cold. So I was telling them, well, we need to make education cool. So if y'all are cold, like, how can we play on that? I said, how can we play on that?
Right.
And I was telling them, if kids are getting straight A's and B's, they're reading books, they can tell us about these books. like really, really explain everything to us. Maybe they get cool points, and cool points mean you get money to go buy from the store, the cold store or whatever.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
So I was trying to bring something like
yeah.
that. Yeah. And
I can see that.
That's, you just have to incentivize the youth. You have to incentivize.
Everybody wants something like fun, like, oh, what can I get out of this? So yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
And so can you take us back to the moment where you decided to turn your life around? Like, what was that turning point? So you're in prison, you're doing your time, but then you got out and you changed your life completely. So what was that turning moment like? I'm not going back doing the same thing.
Let me first tell you, it wasn't in prison.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay. Tell us about that.
No, but it started in prison.
Okay.
Two things. First thing, I was bored to death in prison. So you have a lot of time. And what can I do to sort of change the narrative here?
Okay.
And somebody came around with a box of books. And you won't believe the book that I pulled out, or maybe the book that was thrown to me. It was Daniel Steele. She's a romantic novelist.
Okay.
And I read, what was...
Like a rom-com.
I forget the name. How am I forgetting the name of this book? Something about the cabin. I forget the name. But Daniel Steele, and I read the book, and it showed me a life that I didn't know anything about. And I was curious about it. I was like, well, if this is her life, what have I been living? Like, where does this happen? Like, I'm trying to find this kind of system, this kind of, community.
Okay.
And it's
a different way to think about it.
It just got me interested in another life, another lifestyle. She was always in New York, Paris, these kinds
Just traveling, yeah.
So I'm like, man, I haven't left Noonan, So I wanted to figure out what that was about. That was the very first thing I think that got me on the right trajectory, was thinking.
Wow.
How many of us really
I was going to say from a book and just,
Well, I'm talking especially guys in the streets.
Yeah.
Life is so fast. I mean, it moves so fast. You'll hear a lot of guys when they get incarcerated, they're like, man, thank God I can slow down. I can actually think now.
Yeah.
So that's what I had time to do. And I read those books, and that was the start. The second piece is I got a GED while I was incarcerated because I quit school when I was 17 years old. Mm-hmm. And when I went to prison, I said, well, I'm here. I got time. Get the GED. So I got the GED while I was in prison. Wow. Those are the two things that sparked everything.
Wow.
But when you talk about the real change, it's like any other time you see Black man doing well. Why? A Black woman.
That is true. Yeah.
It was a Black woman, Minister Hall. She said two things to me, changed my whole life. First thing, son, pull your pants up. First thing she said to me. And then she said, are you in school? And I said, no, ma'am. She said, would you like to go? And I said, why not? I did everything else under the sun. And 2 months later, I'm enrolled at Benedict College. Changes my whole life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And so from Benedict, walk us through that.
She was from New Orleans, and she said, James, I've been helping young poor kids get in school for over 25 years. And she told me, she said, she told me to be at her house that next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. I went to Barnes & Noble, spent my last $100 that I had to my name, and bought all kind of SAT material, just all kinds of stuff. And when I got there with the stuff, what she said to me? She said, James, I've been doing this for 25 years. And this is the first time a student has ever done what you just did.
Wow. So you were serious, yeah.
She said, because of that, let me tell you what's going to happen. She said, you're going to go to Benedict College. You're going to show these students that they can come from nothing and be something. You're going to be a mentor. You're going to go to law school. You're going to make a lot of money. I mean, this woman spoke this over my life.
Wow.
I'm 27 years old, and I'm still halfway in the streets. You know what I mean? I'm still, kind of moving and shaking kind of thing. And I said, this woman done lost her damn mind. You know what I mean? That's what I said.
Yeah.
Because I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
Here I am living the exact same thing that she told me that I would be doing. Like, I'm living it right now. And when I think about it, I'm like, it's amazing.
Yeah, like I could have never saw this from her.
She spoke it, but she helped me get there, and I still talk to her today. That's what
I was going to ask you. Yeah, you still talk to her. Yeah.
When I got to Benedict, she told me to major in education. She said education will help pay for your tuition. So I wanted to be an elementary teacher so that I could show young kids of all races and colors that there are Black male leaders. And especially young Black kids need to see that because they don't get to see it, in the communities that I come from. So for 2 years, I'm in schools all over the state of South Carolina teaching, telling my story. People are loving it for 2 full years.
Wow.
The third year, when it was time to student teach, you know what happened?
What happened?
I said, James, you can't be a teacher. You're a convicted felon. So
Really?
it changed everything. Now, mind you, the reason why I was able to go into these schools is because they were doing a state background check. I'm not from South Carolina, so that state background check is not going to
Okay,
yield anything.
yeah,
right?
okay.
But when it was time to student teach, they do an FBI background check, and everything's come back from any state.
Oh, wow.
And then the Georgia stuff came back that I was a convicted felon, and they told me that I needed to change my major. So I ring up my mentor in Washington, D.C.,
Right.
Colonel Knowles, and he said, well, check your email. Check my email. It was a round trip ticket to D.C. He said, I want to introduce you to a network of my friends. Long story short, a guy named James King sat me down just like you and I right now. And he said, James, you cannot be a teacher, but you can be an attorney. And it just blew my mind.
Wow. Like all of these people speaking life into you throughout your journey. Yes.
Yeah. But it blew my mind. That I could be an attorney and not be a teacher. That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it didn't make sense to me. But when he told me that, I went back to college. I changed my major, and I just started taking like the hardest English courses that I could take to prepare. And I didn't know anything about law school, how to get in it.
That's
how
what I was
to
going to ask you. It's like, why a prosecutor? Why?
Well, prosecution came about because where I come from, right?
Okay.
Where I come from, when we walk into a courtroom and we see Bob, we're scared for our lives.
Yeah.
At the Fulton County Solicitor General's office, when those young Black men walk into that courtroom and see me, Jesus.
Somebody actually cares. Yeah.
Somebody who actually knows their experiences, somebody who they can relate to, and I'm no cakewalk though. I don't take it easy on them, you know what I mean? Because I know what they really need, and it's hard work to really get to where they need to be. So if it's someone that I can get into diversion, where I can educate them, rather than just incarcerate them, then I do that. Because that's what it's about, actually helping people.
And that actually brings me to my next question. When you get those types of cases, does it pull on your heartstrings sometimes where it's like, you know what, I know what you're going through. I've been there. Like, how do you handle that though?
Let me first say this. Keith E. Gamage is a restorative justice champion. He's the person that hired me. He's the Fulton County Solicitor General. So Keith E. Gamage, that's my boss, and he gave me an opportunity. He made me the first person in American history to have the lived experience of going to prison as a convicted felon, getting out and becoming a prosecutor. It's never happened.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
I'm the first to do it in American history. So I'm proud of that. And I'm happy to have a mentor like him in my life to give me this kind of opportunity. But I will say this, and he'll laugh when he hear it. He has to get on my butt just constantly because he knows I want to help so much. Yeah. And he says to me, he says, James, you're not a defense attorney.
Right.
He said, James, you're not a defense attorney. I said, listen, I'm just looking at it all the way around the board. You know what I mean? I'm giving people a fair shot. And I think a fair shot is looking at all aspects. He was like, well, they have an attorney. Let them do that.
Okay.
And I just could never do it. I could never do it.
Because, I mean, you're so close to, not necessarily saying you're so close to it, but you get what I'm saying. Like, your attorney,
I understand it.
Yeah.
I have a very unique perspective that most other prosecutors can never have.
Yes.
Because they've never had my experiences.
Exactly.
So that I think it was a testament to have me there because of that perspective is just one that you're not going to find anywhere else. Exactly. He knew that too, and that's why he gave me the opportunity. But when I tell you, I learned so much at that office, and I'm still there, but my last day is coming up Friday. Okay. But I've learned so much from that office and so much from Keith E. Gamage that I can never repay him. You know, it's invaluable, the things that I learned.
Okay, you're dropping some gems of people I didn't even know that were in Atlanta, so thank you. And so talk to me more about James for Change Foundation. What got you started and how's that going?
So when I first created it, one of the first things I was thinking about was people that talk about being on the ground, boots on the ground. They're really doing the work.
But you never see them.
Yeah. It's really, until it's election time, right? Then you see everybody. But I come from that. So I wanted to bring out my doctor friends, my lawyer friends.
Like that.
I had the police, sheriff's office out there. I had the district attorney out there. I had entrepreneurs, people were giving away jobs. The kids came out. Everybody really loved it. But I did it because it's a community that I helped disorganize. It's a community that I, did stupid things in. And I wanted to come back to rectify that.
That's good.
And I had the opportunity to do it. And I thank God for that I really had the opportunity to bring it back home. Because it's my hometown. It's where I come from. And I want to see those children have an opportunity and have a future. So that's why I created the organization, because I know I'm somebody who's really going to do the work.
Right.
There's a lot of people that's not, they'll create these organizations and get all of this funding and do absolutely nothing.
And we never hear from them again, like you said.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it'll never happen with me because I am them. As much as people try to separate me from these street cats and these, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no. That's who I was.
Exactly.
Right? And that's who I am today.
Right.
I just learned. I educated myself. And we can do the same thing with these young men. We can do the exact same thing.
That.
They have to take responsibility. Like I told you earlier, they have to take accountability for their lives. I don't care about racism. I don't care about not being able to get a job because you're a convicted felon and all this stuff. I understand it. I don't care about it though.
Right.
And the reason why I don't.
Exactly.
The reason why I don't care about it is because I know that there is a way over it, right? But it's hard. It's very, very difficult. And I will say, in my community, it's not that we don't work hard, but it's some people that when you don't take accountability, you can't get to the level of work that you need to get to because you're not even taking accountability for why you're there in the first place.
Yeah.
So you think something should be given to you.
Yeah.
To push you. You know what I mean? So, it's a delicate dance that I do when I'm trying to help.
I think so there's a lot of people that want to make a change for their life, but they don't know where to start. Like they might hear your story and they're like, I don't know even where to begin. I don't have X, Y, and Z. Like talk to me about what are some action items that they can actually do to get to that next level, get out of this rut.
Let me tell you what's funny first. What's funny is I have so many people reaching back out to me saying, man, I remember when you said you was going to do this. Man, I remember when you said
and you're doing that.
Yeah,
I love that.
But I challenge them, and when I say them, I just mean everybody now, like in my community. I challenge them to say, okay, well, make a plan then. Right?
Okay, right. Say, write the vision, make it plain. Okay.
Action item.
Right.
Actually make a plan. You know what I mean? To make a plan, you have to think. You have to think about it. You have to think about your situation. Critically think, I should say.
Okay.
And once you think about where you're at and why you're where you're at, you can actually develop something that makes sense because now you're saying, okay, well, maybe I could have been here, but because I did this, I'm still here. So let me rearrange some of these things. And I think that's the big piece is critical thinking. And let's see, I think 70% of fourth graders in the state of Georgia are not reading on grade level.
Wow.
It starts there.
Wow.
See, the change that you hear everybody want to make is when these kids are 16, 15, 18.
That's all the damage is done, yeah.
Listen, what I'm telling you is if you wait to that age, they're going to have experiences that'll change them. It won't be dialogue. If you wait to they're 14, 15, 16, you cannot change them with dialogue. You can only change them with experiences. And that's a sad thing because a lot of times they're tough experiences. So that's what we have to understand. If we don't catch these kids in early childhood, it's going to be a big, big problem for them and for the parents. And the problem is the parents don't even have education a lot of times.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
So they don't know how, so not only do the kids don't know how to do it, the mother and the father don't even know how to do it. So that's why with the James for Change Foundation, not only did I bring all of those people together, do all kind of health stuff that day, I opened up what's called the Mingo Aybriel GED Testing Center.
Okay.
Mingo is a young friend of mine who died, early. So I wanted to honor him because I grew up with him in that community, and we'd always get into a fight in the community. But I loved him and he loved me, and I named it after him. But
That's beautiful.
I wanted to show people that you don't need gas money, you don't need a car, you don't need a laptop, you don't need nothing. You need to walk into this manager's office. If you walk in there, you can walk out with a GED.
Wow.
Basic education.
Okay.
Because not everybody is going to college, right? Mm-hmm. There's all kind of technical programs and things that you can do with your hands. And I mean, from being a mechanic, plumber, electrician, I mean, these are jobs that pay well.
Right.
So I think we confuse money a little bit too when we talk about education. I know a lot of people with degrees that are broke.
That is true.
And in debt.
That is true.
So there's so many different opportunities that we can bring to our community, but our community has to be open and ready to receive something new. You know how it is around the way is we like to do how we like to do.
Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right. Right.
Yeah, we like to do what we like to do. So I'm trying to open up a whole new thing in the community where I come from.
Through your foundation.
Yeah, and bridge this culture to something new, to something different, to something cool.
Yeah,
right.
It's cool. Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do.
And so one takeaway that I'm hearing, even throughout the interview, you had a community, you have mentors.
Right.
You don't really hear too many, even, people that I interact in my circle, men that have mentors, that have people that can pour into them, speak life into them. So can you talk to me a little bit about the importance of finding your community and also finding mentors that will put you in position to succeed?
First thing is you have to be doing something special, I think, to even kind of get on someone's radar.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
So when I was at Benedict College, and it was a program called Conference Alert. I still remember the name, funny enough. Conference Alert. And I was able to tell my story that day.
Okay.
And Gil Knowles, Colonel, I call him Colonel, he's retired from the Army, he's kind of like my father at this point. But he was there, and he was the guy who mentored the young men that day. And after we left the group meeting, he came over to me. He said, "Hey, this is my book." He said, everywhere I go to mentor young black men, there's always one that stand out. He said,
"You're that one."
He said, "Today you're that guy." And he said, I'm gonna sign this book. And he said, if you're serious about the changes that you want to make and the things that you want to do, you stay in touch with me. This is that same guy that told me to check my email and come to DC.
Wow.
He's the reason why I'm an attorney today.
Wow.
Yeah, that same guy. So when you talk about mentorship, or let me just say it like this, when you see me, when you see James White out here doing the things that I do, I stand on the shoulders of so many black men that got it right.
That's good.
And
You
black
don't hear,
women.
you don't hear that too often.
Yeah. So I stand on the shoulders of so many black men and women that got it right. And we have to come back to the community though. So I feel some of us who make it out, most of us who make it out, don't like to go back.
Yeah, because that's their past, that's behind them.
Because even when we go back, it's a flash, it's in and out,
Yeah.
And I get it, right?
Yeah.
It's a tough community. And we feel like it's people who know better at this point and don't want better at this point. So it's on them. And while I believe that a bit, I do believe that, I still feel that I felt the same way when I was there.
Yeah.
So that's the piece I remember, is I felt that same way. So I say to myself, James, get off your high horse because you've been there. Get to a level where you feel you need to get to that you can bring them up,
Yeah.
So, and again, it's not, pulling somebody out. Like, as they say, you can lead a horse to water. You can't make them drink.
Right.
But you can stay there with them until they drink.
Yeah.
you can sit there for a while,
Yeah.
But a lot of people,
You can encourage them, yeah.
Time is money these days, and people are just less interested in people that don't want to help themselves.
That is true. I don't know. I feel really biased about that last comment. Yeah. And so as we're wrapping up, you are currently running for District 2. For those of you at home that don't know what that is, explain to us what District 2 is. What are you running for?
Atlanta City Council.
Okay.
Yeah, Atlanta City Council, District 2. I don't want to say too much about running for office right now, but I will say this.
Okay.
United, one future, all in for District 2.
Okay, I like that. I like that. I like that
I'll
slogan.
say that.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you
This
for
was
having
such
me.
an honor. Oh my gosh.
Man, thank you
Such
for
an
having me. I love telling the story because I hope that there's just one person, one person
all you
that
need,
heard
yeah.
it and said, you know what, I can do better. That's all I hope.
Don't be surprised if people reaching out if I send them your way now.
Come on, man.
Okay,
That's what I do. Thank you for having me, though. I
No
appreciate
problem. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to season 5, and we'll see you next week for another episode of Down and Dirty. Bye, guys.
And when you say that women know their worth now, it's implying that the men was the problem always. So
Yeah,
Not necessarily. I'm starting to want men that go to therapy though. Slick. Like, have you did the internal healing?